Hello, everyone. Happy 2023. Yeah. I think we are going to be off to a great start in our city. And lots of enthusiasm, optimism, and excitement coming our way. So, and to our city council, our new members in particular, it's now really official. Things get a little, like, we're on go. So everybody get ready for the ride. We are going to start the meeting today with the Pledge of Allegiance. I believe, Megan, if I could ask that you lead us today. And thank you. My apologies, Councilmember Patton. Okay. We have one item that has been pulled from the consent agenda by Councilmember Patton, B2. And then we also have an announcement from staff. They are pulling D1. Apparently, the company is not prepared to move forward with a public hearing at this time. So those two items, one's disappeared, the other has been pulled. Could I have a motion to approve the remainder of the consent agenda?
Move for approval.
Sorry, there was also one last-minute email request to pull G2 that was made by the company, or different. Oh, there. Okay.
Okay. All right, so we have B2 pulled. Do we have a motion to approve?
Move for approval.
Councilmember, Mayor Pro Tem Branch. Do we have a second? Second. Seconded by Councilmember Melton. All in favor? Aye. Okay, that was unanimous, Clerk. All right, now we will, if you will address any questions you have with B2. This is the disposition of surplus property at 411 Morrison Street.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for the time. The disposition of this piece of property predated my time on the council, and so I just wanted to spend a little bit more time understanding the options that were available. The item in the consent agenda is for the beginning of the upset bid process, which, as I understand it, is one of the options. We have another community group that had asked for the land to be given to them through a state statute. And then it's also my understanding that the third option would have been the RFP process. And so I would just love to hear from staff about why the RFP process was not chosen as the option for this piece of property, what would have been gained if we had gone through RFP, and in particular, I'm interested in preservation of how we can use the RFP process for the purpose of preservation. So those are some of my questions.
This is Ralph Ritchie. I'm the real estate manager in planning and development. I'll try to catch all those. The property is managed by Housing and Neighborhoods, and they had asked last June for the surplus sale through the highest bid to maximize revenue in support of affordable housing. So the RFP process we use is when a specific outcome is desired to occur on a piece of property. This property in itself wouldn't really yield that much as far as number of units for affordable housing, whereas the proceeds from the sale could be contributed to a much larger affordable housing complex and generate much more as far as units. So the idea was not to put it out for RFP for affordable housing development, but for the proceeds to support it. It is in an historic overlay district and could be used for preservation purposes. However, the action we're following through with was what council directed us to do, was to maximize revenue. Anytime we put an RFP in play, we're asking for a specific outcome which narrows the market and can reduce the amount of revenue generated by the property because we're asking for a specific outcome. That would be contrary to what was asked for and approved by Housing and Neighborhoods. So we now are in possession of what we consider a viable, reasonable opening bid for the upset bid process, and that's what we're bringing forward to you today. Did I hit all those questions?
I guess a follow-up question I have, thank you so much, by the way, is around like, are there other pieces of property where preservation might make sense? Are there any similar process, like, are there any pieces of property similar to this situation where we could have opportunities for preservation as well?
Although we'd have to look through the inventory to find out if there's something appropriate for that, I cannot think of a piece of property right offhand that's in an historic district, but there are other surplus city parcels that could be utilized for preservation purposes. We could be, I would have to do, again, an inventory search to be specific, but we have a great deal of property that we are in the process of evaluating how to get it back out onto the market for private development. So it seems that would be a very appropriate consideration.
Okay. Those are all my questions. Thank you so much for your time. I am not, if it's the appropriate time, we can move for approval of the opening of the upset bid. I just wanted to make sure that we took some time to understand what the opportunities were and if we can utilize those mechanisms in the future as well.
I think that you've asked some really good questions, and there are ways to dispose of property. The council at this time said we want to maximize the amount of money we can bring in for affordable housing for our fund, and that was the main goal. So we are well into that process now. We would authorize it today, but as you said too, we have an organization with Oakwood who's interested in several properties, potentially preserving them on a different location. And what I would suggest is that if that is the goal, the property needs to be identified. The property then needs to be, reviewed by a structural engineer. Is it worthy of being moved? Well, not, but that's a whole other process. And if that is the case, then we look for some surplus land that we own that could be used for that purpose. So are you making a motion to approve? Yeah, are you making the motion to approve? Okay. Do we have a second? Then I'll get to you, Councilmember Fort.
Well, I had a question too. I'm willing to second that. I want to comment.
Okay, so you second that. Okay, Councilmember Fort?
Well, the one thing I want to say is that I know we've had folks come before us before who wanted to do something very similar.
Yep.
And there were a lot of challenges presented in those circumstances. So I think we have to be very careful about how we, go forward with these types of policies and make sure that there's equity in terms of participation, because I think some folks will have some very hard feelings about us opening up opportunities now that we denied to other people before.
Yep. Totally agree.
And those were the same comments that I was going to make, that I know of 3 situations where we went ahead and we did upset bid process where people wanted to, and this is the process. So it does behoove us to go back and just reevaluate. We're always reevaluating because we're trying to do what's best for the community, and time changes things. COVID changed things. So I really look forward to us just moving forward.
Councilmember Jones?
Thank you. I just had an observation of this, and it's come through in a few different things on the agenda as I was going through it. There's a lot of things that happened before we got on council. There's a lot of conversations that when we're coming to make the decision, I don't feel confident making any decisions because I'm like, I don't know. I didn't know about these. And I would love to find a process or find the ability to have those intentional conversations so it doesn't look like I'm just trying to upset, what we're doing, when I'm really just trying to look for clarity, especially in situations like this. Because that was never, until I talked to Corey last night, I had no idea about the other potential people who wanted to come and purchase the land. So if we can find a way to for there to be a little bit more education before we make decisions so quickly in like a consent agenda where it's not just listed right there, I would really appreciate it.
Well, the city manager and I are smiling because she and I had this conversation before the meeting, and she's going to come up with a plan to review consent agenda items with you beforehand.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. All right, all in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, that was unanimous, clerk. Thank you. Next, we have the report and recommendation of the Planning Commission.
Good afternoon, Bynum Walter, Raleigh Planning and Development. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thank you. I'm just waiting for these. There we go. Great. So I wanted to remind you, you can see printed on your agenda, we have a number of items that are already scheduled for public hearing on January 17th. There are 2 petition annexations and 4 rezonings. And then we also have a rezoning scheduled for public hearing on February 7th. So the items I'm going to walk through from the report of Planning Commission today would add to that list. So the first one is TC 822. This is a self-storage, a self-service storage in the OP zoning district. Planning Commission does recommend approval, and the recommended public hearing date is January 17th. Also, TC 622 for treatment plants. This basically addresses the city's water treatment plant up on Falls of Neuse Road. Again, Planning Commission recommends approval, and the suggested public hearing date here is also January 17th. We have a rezoning case that is looking for, Planning Commission is looking for an extension of their review period so that they could continue to talk about this a little bit longer. This is the Ironworks site over off Whitaker Mill Road. Planning Commission is asking for a 60-day extension here, and their new deadline would be March 8th. And then the remainder of these items are recommended for February 7 public hearing. This is a different case on a different place on Whitaker Mill Road. This is the 1721. This would rezone Whitaker Glen and Mayview and some adjacent parcels to allow more intense development. And again, Planning Commission does recommend approval here, and the public hearing date is suggested for February 7th. Another parcel out on Old Mill Burney Road. This request is just under 12 acres and going from R4 to RX4 with conditions. Planning Commission does recommend approval, and the suggested public hearing date is February 7. Z6422, this is a request for just under an acre to go from R4 to OX4 with parking limited frontage. This is the east side of Lead Mine. The Planning Commission recommends approval. And again, a suggested public hearing date of February 7. A very small parcel on Leicester Court. This is south of downtown, pretty close to Walnut Terrace. This is going from RX3 to NX3 with conditions, looking to legalize a lapsed commercial use that historically had been there as a non-conforming use. Planning Commission recommends approval, and a suggested public hearing date of February 7 for this item as well. Another smaller parcel, less than an acre on Jones Franklin Road, going from R4 to OX3. This is a request motivated to allow a personal service business in this otherwise residential limited area. Planning Commission recommends approval, and again, suggested public hearing date of February 7. And there's a big old summary of what I just talked to you about. Those first 2 items, the text changes are suggested for January 17th. The Ironworks case is asking for an extension, and all other items for, and I think this slide is actually not right, so I'm just going to go back here to one that I know is true, that the remainder of those items looking for a February 7th date.
How many items then would be on the February 7th agenda?
There's one there already, and with the set that I just talked through,
There'd be 4
there's
more.
5 asked today, so that would put us at 6 for the 7th.
Okay. All right, does anybody have any questions? I was going to make a motion to go with the staff recommendations on the public hearings and also the extension that that has been requested by the Planning Commission.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, that was unanimous, Clerk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now the fun begins. These are the public hearings to be rescheduled.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, members of council. Pat Young with Planning and Development. As we notified you last week, due to a defect in required advertisement for public hearing notice, the 13 cases that were scheduled for today, 2 for today's meeting and 11 for this evening, cannot be heard today. They have to be re-advertised, rescheduled, and re-noticed. So what we are bringing before you here is a request to identify dates to hold these meetings. Your options in the near term, of course, are January 17th, February 7th, or a special call meeting that could accommodate some or all of these meetings. And we had recommended the 11 items on the screen there for either February 7th or a special meeting, and then these items are recommended for January 17th. With that, I'll be happy to take any questions.
Okay, I think that there is some consensus on holding a special meeting on January 24th. So I will make a motion, but before I do that, we have these two cases which would be slated for the 17th. And then I believe, Councilor Branch, you have a case that.
Yeah, it's actually listed.
The Old Pool Road?
Z46.
Okay. All right, so those recommended for January 17th. Do we have a motion to approve that?
I move for public hearing for items Z57, 22 and Z46, 22 for January 17th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you. And then I will make a motion to approve a special meeting for January 24th. Now, here's the thing. Do we want to start this a little earlier? Because there are 11 meetings. Do we want to start at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock? Any ideas on that? We don't have committees items yet, so that's why we could do that.
I just want to mention, too, the Council of Governments through UNC is having their two-day conference on the 23rd and 24th. So for anyone who wanted to go to that and stay, I don't know how long folks want to stay, but I think the agenda technically goes till 3 o'clock. I'd be fine with leaving by noon and getting back in time for an earlier meeting. I just want to throw that out there, because it's in Kannapolis.
I'm thinking 5.
5 o'clock?
p.m.
Is that good with staff?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Then the motion will be for 5 o'clock. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Let's see.
She can have it.
Councilmember Harrison
Councilmember
has
Harris can have it.
seconded that. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, that was unanimous, Clerk. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
I
much.
know a lot of work went into rescheduling this, and thank you for doing that.
Can I just ask one question?
Yes.
Because I think it's good for the public too. Have we put anything in place so that we don't have to
Yes.
do this again?
Yeah, Councilmember Branch, or excuse me, Mayor Pro Tem Branch, you're asking a great question. I appreciate you asking it. We are in the process of developing new protocols that will create additional redundancy. What happened in this case and in the small error that happened in December was just that there was an oversight by an individual staff member and there wasn't enough of a check on it in time. So we're putting in additional steps in place, and we'll have that in by the next meeting, put that in immediate effect. We'll review with the city manager's office before doing that. But I appreciate you bringing it up, because that is certainly, we understand how important getting this right is. I've been here 2.5 years, and we've only had 2 errors, which have been in the last 2 months. So I think it's a high volume with quick turnaround times, but we are committed to enhance processes to eliminate these errors.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we're on to special items. This is for rezoning Z6522 at Willard Place.
Yes, ma'am. We deferred this item during the last council meeting in anticipation of some revised rezoning conditions. Those have not been received, and we would recommend deferring this as a special item to January 17th.
Okay. Are you okay with deferring this to the 17th? Okay. Do we have a motion then? Defer to the 17th?
Move for deferral of Z6522 until January 17th in order to set the public hearing.
That's right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, that was unanimous, clerk. Next, rezoning Z7522, Edwards Mill Road.
Yes, ma'am. This was, again, you had deferred setting the public hearing. The applicant has in fact converted this to a conditional use case, and they have submitted conditions that limit density and require setbacks along the property boundary. And so if you would like, you could set the public hearing today.
Okay. Do we have,
This is definitely my district, and I'm unfamiliar with this. So do I just pick a date and just say, yeah, let's do that? Or
No,
what-
ma'am, you could set it for the 17th or the 7th. Typically, we set public hearings for days when you already have regularly scheduled meetings.
The 7th. And how many do we have on the 7th?
I think it's 6.
6 currently. Is there a limit on how many we have in one day? Just
No, we,
Our collective stamina. Yeah.
7's not bad.
Remember we had 11 scheduled for tonight.
yeah.
Oh, I remember, and I remember we had a lot on the 6th too. So, yeah, I'm just trying to think. Anywho, that's for another conversation. Yes, I would like to move to schedule this public hearing for February 7th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, that was unanimous, clerk. Thank you. And our next item is a sponsorship opportunity for the 2023 Carolinas Conference for ULI. Is, okay,
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Lou Bonapane with the City Manager's Office. The 2023 Carolinas Conference of the Urban Land Institute is going to be held here in Raleigh next month. Staff was asked to look at opportunities for the city to become a sponsor of that event. And two options that are available to council is the council contingency account, because this was not appropriated, or we could identify funding within the planning department budget and make that transfer administratively, depending on what council wanted to do.
first off, I had brought this forward because I have been to this, the Carolinas Conference numerous times in Charlotte, Columbia, other places. They've held it in Raleigh before. We have sponsored this. I would urge all of you to try to attend. It's 3 days. You don't have to attend all 3 days, but you'll probably learn more about best practices and whatnot in transportation, affordable housing, and development than you'll learn anywhere else. So through a sponsorship, we get allowances for staff and council members to attend and reduced rates as well. So my recommendation would be to ask the planning department to look at its budget and identify funding rather than council contingency. So I'm going to make that motion. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, clerk, that was unanimous. Thank you.
Just for clarification, asking the planning department to identify the funding, do you want to go ahead and transfer it at this meeting or bring that recommendation back?
The transfer,
Thank you.
thank you. Next, we have the report and recommendation of the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor, and happy 2023 to everybody. We're excited about all of the meetings that we have scheduled in January, and we have a lot. So lots of good work to move the city forward, and your staff is very excited and anxious to get going. And with that, we have a couple of items under the manager's report today, one on the agenda and two that we've added. And the first is we have Erica Brandt from Housing and Neighborhood here to talk to us about an affordable housing opportunity for some gap funding for the preserves at Gresham Lake. It is an affordable housing opportunity that we were already a partner to, and so some additional funding is needed.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Council and Mayor. Erica Brandt, Housing and Neighborhoods. So we are talking today about the Preserve at Gresham Lake and their request for additional GAP funds. So this was a project that was approved under the prior council. It is a 156 unit affordable rental development located at 3095 Gresham Lake Road. It's got units targeting incomes between 30% AMI and 70% AMI, and 32 of the units are going to be set aside as supportive housing for people with disabilities. It's being developed by LDG Development, which is a leading affordable housing developer based in Kentucky. So previously, this project was approved in May of 2022 for $3,275,000 in city rental gap financing funds. Since that time, rising construction costs and interest rates have led to a funding gap. So construction costs have risen from about $185,000 per unit to $234,000 per unit, which is a 25% increase. And interest rates on senior debt have risen from 3.9% to about 6.4%. So LDG has taken some steps to try to fill this gap. They've increased their bond allocation, which will help meet the construction needs, and they've also requested additional gap financing funds from both the city and from Wake County. From the city, they are requesting $2.3 million in additional funds for a total of $5,587,119 from the city, and that is the same amount that they are requesting from Wake County as well. So the staff recommendation is to approve this additional commitment, understanding that the construction cost environment developers and all of us are facing is very heightened, and there is a need for more financing to make these projects happen. So the total amount will be about $5.6 million for this project. And approximately $15 million will remain in the bucket for the remainder of fiscal year 22-23 and for the coming fiscal year in our rental gap financing development budget.
Okay, any questions?
Has the county approved the additional money, or do you know?
I don't believe it's gone to the county yet.
It'll be time to talk to some of our colleagues.
Absolutely.
Yes. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Seconded by Council Mayor Pro Tem Branch. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, that was unanimous, Clerk. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. The second item, as you all know, we have our City Council retreat scheduled for January 27th and 28th. We have Michelle Millette, Chief of Administrative Services, going to walk you through high level, a draft agenda, and allow you the opportunity to submit some additional feedback if for other topics that you would like to see on the agenda for those 2 days.
All right. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Happy 2023. So excited to see you all's faces today. So we have selected Friday, January the 27th to begin at 10:30 a.m. with a train ride to Durham, North Carolina. Get a nice view from our Amtrak seats. We're going to start you guys off with a team building exercise, talk about how you see your role, try to define your success as a council member. We're also going to go through some affordable housing, bond, kind of traditional information through the Housing and Neighborhoods Department, go through some programs, 101, talk about funding options, different things that the city has done thus far. Also take stock of our accomplishments made thus far. Then we'll take a tour of the Willard Street Apartments, which has been a successful project in Durham. We'll go through a presentation with the NAACP. If you all recall our last retreat, the NAACP made a proposal to us in order to try to help reduce the gun violence in Raleigh. And so the NAACP, Moms Demand Actions, and a few other community partners have worked together, and they're going to walk us through what that scope of work will look like. Then we'll have a state of crime report by the Chief of Police. Then we'll have a transit discussion with Jared Walker from Jared Walker Associates. He helps people foster conversations about transit, and he's also the author of Human Transit. And then we'll do a social networking hour or two with the Durham leadership, and we hope we'll be able to garner some good conversation there and lessons learned that they have to offer. So that's the end of day one.
Michelle, could we make sure that we include the Durham
County commissioners.
county
Yeah.
commissioners as well.
We can definitely extend that invitation to them.
Okay.
So that's day one. Day two, location undefined yet. We'll talk about that in just a second with some options. But we'll open the day with the community board, or community engagement board update, and they're going to present to you all some public comment options as they have been working through their work plan, which also includes some engagement options that you all have been discussing at your last two meetings. We'll also go through our traditional budget and finance outlook. Strategy and innovation will give us a short presentation. They'll also talk a little bit about the community survey as well as some of the work they've been pushing through the strategic plan and give you guys an update. Then we'll get to hear from you all after learning about what we've done and how much money we really have. Then you can talk to us about some of your priorities for the upcoming year. We'll have a legislative agenda update. We've done some different ways of maybe just having our lobbyists talk to us directly, or we've had a panel. We just have to look at our calendar, and our city attorney will help me work through that and figure out the best way to work through that schedule. Then we'll also have an operational update from the city manager. This traditionally is where she lays out the work that she's been doing for the past year and then kind of forecast some of the work that she'll do the upcoming year. Have the opportunity for you all to have any closing remarks. We can recap, ask any questions, and then we normally do a tour. And so I provided a few options for you. If you would like to take advantage of the bioenergy recovery project, we will actually have the meeting there. So a little far out, but a beautiful place and a beautiful drive. So if you can see, our theme here is transit. We're on the move around the city and as well as Durham. So got some options laid out there for you. So I will close with, do you guys have any questions? And if a discussion is not the best time to have at the table, also you can email myself or the city manager so we can work through some of those options laid out.
Jane, do you have something?
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. This is so helpful. Thank you, Michelle. I just wanted to mention on the Community Engagement Board update, just a few of the Community Engagement Board members have been in touch, just kind of letting us know that they're working on some of the issues that this council brought forward in December. And so I just want to lift up that we will be discussing these issues, or at least this is my hope, at the council retreat, to talk about the use of community centers, parks, facilities for community groups, so similar to what Housing and Neighborhoods has for neighborhood groups. I think right now there are some groups that don't have access to Raleigh facilities, and so we want to make sure that there is ongoing access and that it's not so limited to a small neighborhood area. So I'm really excited to hear from the Office of Community Engagement about what that process can look like and how we can operationalize that as soon as possible. So just looking forward to that part of the agenda.
Awesome. I think Taisha's in the audience and she's taking notes.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Councilmember Patton?
Yes, also thank you. We have had many people ask us, many residents ask us how they can participate in the retreat. What parts can they view? Which parts will be televised, et cetera? Can you share that with us?
Sure can. So in thinking about location, that's why I said some of these things are still being determined. Durham will be a little bit of a challenge. So we will not be able to film the Durham meeting, but we will have our wonderful clerk staff there in order to document what you all discussed. But as far as the second day, it will be at a city facility, and so we will have it live streamed. And people can access it just like they access this meeting as well.
But people can attend and.
Yes, but you also can always attend, and we will always publish the date, the times, and the location on our website of the meetings as well, even the one in Durham.
Councilmember Melton?
Yeah, I was just going to flag for the second day in Raleigh. My preference would be to be in a location that's easily accessible and provides live streaming. Not that I don't love the idea of doing the retreat at the Bioenergy Recovery Project, but if it's far out, we're already going far for the first day in Durham, and I think that the second day needs to be more accessible, and we certainly need to be in a place where we can live stream the second day, so that would be my
And we
preference.
can stream in all city facilities, so we're not as
Including
worried about that.
Okay, yeah, but my preference would be to something centrally located.
Could you live stream, though, in a place like the Hunt Library or, because we have had it
Yes.
at the Hunt Library before where we did live stream
Yes.
it. Okay, the reason why I asked that is the second day here, I was looking at some of the locations. One was the Museum of Natural Sciences. I don't know if you all have been in there lately, but there's some amazing stuff going on. They have the dueling dinosaurs coming up and whatnot. I thought that would be something, aside from a meeting space, it's centrally located, but it would also be fun to see what's happening. The Hunt Library, I thought of that because a lot has changed on Centennial Campus. We now have an innovation district there. Raleigh Founded is located there. We have a new engineering center there. Lots going on. I just thought, at some point it'd be nice to be able to get up and tour that. So I would be more inclined to want to choose a site that you could see something and experience something instead of just going to the convention center.
I'll just add, somewhere central with natural light would be great.
I will say I've had
I'm with
I had the opportunity to some elected officials. It was from Kentucky, from Kentucky, who came, and they had their retreat, believe it or not, here in Raleigh, and they were at Hunt Library, and I went and I spoke to the group and everything. So I do think the Hunt Library, the area, that space can work. There's some things I haven't seen since they've grown and everything, but on this list, I appreciate it, but I mean, I think we should go somewhere that is a little different and a little open, and also does give the community access.
And those are just the tour options, by the way, not the location options as well. So,
okay.
So we're open to options for second day. That's
Got you. Okay.
I think you might be hearing some consensus for the Hunt Library.
I think I did. Okay. All right. Thank you all.
Oh, and then the tour options, those, could you put those back up? And can you make them bigger? So I don't know. I think what would be great is if you could provide some feedback. Just think about it. There might be some places that you haven't been that you want to see. I did mention BRT on New Bern Avenue because we're going to be starting construction on that. I thought that might be good for everybody to see the before, and then we'll get to see the after. But it's wide open, so whatever your suggestions are, please get them to Michelle. Councilmember Melton?
Yeah, I was just going to plug that I think it's a great idea to do a tour of the BRT route on New Bern so we can get a feel of what that will look like. There were also some questions from some of the new council members about what the city has planned, the land use, the equitable development around transit fund that will help infill some supportive issues there. And I think if we could do the tour of the route and have some conversations about all of those issues, I think that'd be great.
Mm-hmm.
I just had a quick question. When would be the latest that you want us to bring these ideas forward? Because I'd like some time to mull it over and think of my own things and put them on the table. Do you need to know right now?
Could you give me by Thursday?
By Thursday, yes. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. And the last item, he doesn't know that I'm doing this, but Damian Graham, our communications director, today is his last meeting. Mr. Graham has been with us almost 8 years, I think. And during that time, Damian helped successfully navigate us through a branding campaign and a logo campaign that many of you all will remember was difficult. And so through his leadership, and I'm being nice, through his leadership, we are in a better place through centralized communications. But he has been afforded an opportunity that was really hard for him to say no. And because although we're a family and a team, I am happy for him and his family in his next venture. So if we can give a round of applause to Damian Graham, our communications director.
Get up here and communicate with us. One last time. Come on.
Thank you, City Manager. You put a communications director who has hard times finding words in this particular moment. But I am so grateful for the honored to have served for this community that I live and call home. We've been through quite a lot in 8 years. The job has evolved significantly over the last 8 years. Far too many crises to go through to remember or want to think about, but a lot of successes. And the thing that I will treasure most is just the relationships. I can tell you with great confidence that you have some incredible talent here at the city. And my colleagues, I have loved working with them, and particularly my own staff. There isn't a better communications department in the country. Of this, I am certain. And I always think it's important to leave a place better than you found it. And I know that I'm doing just that. You're in great shape. They're so talented, so smart, so creative. And I'm excited about the future for Raleigh with this team in place. So thank you for putting me on the spot. Thank you for this honor. I appreciate you all.
Thank you, Damian.
So we know where he lives, and Damien has a special place in my heart with his children. So we will stay in touch with him through his kids. And this new opportunity that he has will allow him to be more intentional about his time with his kids. And you can't be upset about that. So for that, I'm forever grateful. And that concludes my report today.
Thank you. All right, next we have reports from our committees, but we don't have any committee meetings yet, and we have nothing assigned to it. So I am just going to jump right to the report from the mayor and city council. Oh, hold on.
Yeah, just one quick question. I just wanted to make sure we will have time in February to meet with the committees if we so choose. So I believe we need to put some agenda item on. So as the chair of Growth and Natural Resources, I'd look to put a meeting, I guess, agenda item for the members to come together and to talk about any particular work plan desires for this year. And I would really like to better understand from the committee members what you all would like to see Growth and Natural Resources do. I know there will be specific topics. I have a feeling some zoning cases might come to Growth and Natural Resources in February, but we don't know yet. But I just want to put that on the calendar if other committee members are interested in talking through a work plan.
Well, you might have an agenda item if something is sent there.
Right.
What I would say is the type of discussion you want to have probably might be more appropriate for a work session or a retreat topic. Just saying.
And I'd just like to uplift what Jane is saying, just because as it was explained during the orientation, these committees are based on the strategic plan. And so I'd love to have ongoing conversations about that as a committee and looking towards what is in the strategic plan having to do with those specific committees and how we can continue those conversations. I'd love that opportunity to continue that work on a more consistent basis.
And I'd like to ask for some clarification. Are we using the same times and dates the previous council used as your meeting dates?
Yes.
We had talked about it, but I was not sure if that has been. So we can go ahead and set up the schedule.
So 11:30 is Save Vibrant Healthy Communities. 1:30 is EDI. Let's see, Corey, yours is Thursday at 4, and then Growth and Natural Resources would be at 4 o'clock on the Tuesday.
And just a reminder, too, that if there are conflicts or if you know that you won't have quorum, you can announce a pivot during this part of the agenda. So when it's items from the committee as the chair, then you can say we're going to meet instead on a different day or time.
Yeah, in the meantime, I'll make sure to talk to other committee members about specific agenda items, but that's just my intent. I'd like to have a February meeting. I'm assuming there's going to be a few topics. I just don't know what they are just yet.
Mm-hmm. Usually there's specific topics that occur during the meeting that get referred to committee. And it takes a vote of council.
Okay.
Yeah.
And normally, I'm like speaking out of turn here, but normally the committees only discuss items that are directly referred from the council That's the only way an item gets in committee, and the only way it gets out is for the committee to discuss it and make a recommendation.
Thanks, that's helpful.
Yep. Okay. Next, we have a report from Mayor and the City Council. Let's see, I'm going to mix things up a little bit and start with Councilmember Harrison.
All right. Yes, I did want to mention just some considerations for affordable housing ideas. We had talked briefly about a potential study on affordable housing at our last meeting. And then obviously, this is just an ongoing topic that our council is very focused on. I think with the temperatures over the holiday break, it's very apparent how important safe, secure housing is for everyone. I am aware that a woman who was using the White Flag shelter, one of our shelters, she was hit by a car when she was leaving the shelter, trying to get to a bus stop, and she's doing okay. I've talked to the pastor in charge, but those are the kinds of things you just don't want to hear about, and I want to make sure that we're just continuing this conversation in a very proactive way. So, Gail, I actually wrote some notes out for you. I typed them up. I'll give those to Bryce to hand over. But these are just some ideas for consideration.
Nicely done.
I just, in case I say too many things, you'll have the notes. But, for whether we do a study or plans in the future, as we're talking to the various departments that do really great work on these topics, these are just some ideas. And so short term is basically 12 months or less ideas. I have some medium term ideas, 1 to 2 years, and then longer term, 3 to 10 years. So we may not all be here then, but just get it going, Marshall, it's on you. Yeah. But on the short term, I have heard questions or considerations about designating a certain percentage of remaining ARPA funds for affordable housing. So I've even heard ideas, some of this comes from folks I talk to in my district, folks that are working on affordable housing, but perhaps could we designate 25% of remaining ARPA funds for affordable housing? I'm not sure how much funds are left, but that would be a question I have. How much have been spent to date on that topic? Would we want to make a priority in that respect? We've also had conversations, especially with faith-based leaders in the area, about utility relief for long-term, low-income homeowners. So is that something that we want to move on perhaps this year? I've seen other cities, Seattle, for example, offer relocation assistance for renters who are being displaced. That might be a policy that we could consider. I know we have tenant protection services through Campbell Law School. I'd be curious just to hear how that's going. Do they have the capacity that they need, the support that they need? Are folks that are facing eviction getting those resources?
They've already helped 30 people.
Awesome.
And then they had a break during the holiday because of the holidays and exams. But in a very short time frame, they have assisted 30 people. They hit the ground running the minute they opened their doors. It was amazing.
Yeah, and I just want to continue elevating that resource because it's such a great one. I'd like us to continue city purchases of land along transit corridors to establish new affordable housing complexes. I believe that we have expedited permit review processes for affordable housing and perhaps waived some fees, but I don't know the extent of that. That'd be something I'm curious to better understand.
That's something that I mentioned as part of a study.
Great.
Potentially.
Yeah. And then perhaps there are opportunities with missing middle to include some affordable housing density bonuses. So for some of the higher density requirements or abilities, is there an affordable housing component here? I know we have that with TOD. And so that's another thing where I'd like to monitor and evaluate, are those density bonuses, are they getting us what we want? Are they set at the right, kind of price. I think in our rezoning cases, we have a lot of opportunities to encourage affordable housing. I'm really excited to see what creative opportunities developers and applicants can bring in this space. So whether it's, perhaps providing some land for affordable housing, perhaps some money for the city to use for affordable housing, subsidized units and planned developments, as well as providing lease protections for existing tenants. So if there is going to be a redevelopment, how do we protect some of the folks that are perhaps going to be, moved out, or they can't afford what those rents are going to be in the future? So that's on the short term. Just a few more items on the medium term. I have been in conversations with the mayor. I love this idea about incentivizing building of ADUs for owners who provide affordable housing. So could we make sure that we're having some incentives for longer term rentals with ADUs, so not just the short term rentals? I would love to see on the state side, so this is why it gets medium term, because I'm not sure what the state will do for us, is some state tax reductions for property owners who will maintain naturally occurring affordable housing. So can we try to incentivize those owners of NOAA? Can we also have additional state appropriations for low-income tax credits? What additional roles are they willing to play? I think there's a lot of research that we can do. In the medium term, I'm thinking about examining the role of affordable housing overlay districts, perhaps examining the role of parks overlay districts. This is an issue I heard Councilmember Patton bring up, to provide sustained public amenities for current residents. We, again, should, I think, evaluate these TOD, affordable housing density bonuses. And then I've also heard from constituents, what about housing cooperatives? So is that something that we could be investing in? And then when it comes to longer term, these are really state level issues. Property tax relief for long-term low-income homeowners, is that something we want to pursue? Second, rent stabilization, so limiting year-over-year increases to a sustainable growth rate. Is that something that we could try to advocate for? And then finally, is inclusionary zoning something that we could work on at the state level? So those are just some ideas, and I figured I'd throw them out here now while I'm on council, and hopefully someday Marshall will accomplish it all. So that's what I've got.
Okay, who wants to follow that?
Congratulations, Marshall. You've got a long list of things to get done.
I'll be working forever.
The only report I have is that I had opportunity to present proclamations at the John Wall tournament for Nate McMillan and John Wall for the great work that they've been doing in the community. The tournament was very, very well attended, so we had a lot of folks who were in the community from out of town, so that certainly helped us with some of our tax base, so that was great.
I had a few questions and then just some information to pass along. I did mention this to Mr. Bonapane, but I wanted to say it out loud. When we talk about work sessions, I'd really love it if we had an opportunity to have a list ahead of time. I was having a conversation with planning director, so Patrick Young, and I was talking about missing middle, and he said, oh, we're going to have a work session about it January 10th. And I was like, oh, I wish I knew that. I didn't realize we were having that. So if we had, even if it's fluid, even if it changes, something that I can base questions and say, okay, that's being addressed here. I'd love the opportunity to have that scheduled out, however far in advance we can do that, whether it's a Google Doc or something that we can see. And then I had a really moving conversation and a tour of Healing Transitions, the Women's Center over in my district, up in District E, and just watching the work they do, I really just wanted to shine light on that. I'm really, really proud of that, and hope that it continues. I know that I'm going to visit the Men's Center, and in correlation with that, I met with somebody this morning who works with unhoused individuals up near Triangle Town Center, and she had a question of the city-owned hotel that we just purchased last year. She was concerned because the fees or the rental there is like $2,000 a week. And is that what she told me? And I was like, well, let me clarify that. I just wanted to make sure that was, I wanted to get that done right now. I was like, how much does it cost to live at the hotel? And how are we addressing that, and how are we making sure those costs aren't burdensome to those unhoused individuals?
Larry is shaking his head, big nose.
Thank
Yes,
God.
not
Thank
$2,000 a
God.
week.
No.
Yeah.
It's how much? 1,000 a month, 1,000 per month. Awesome. Okay, so I will make sure to clarify that number because I was like, I want to make sure that's not true. So I appreciate that. And how we in my district specifically, as I look around, her concern was how are we helping not only the low income but the no income, because the no income individuals that are needing our best help and our hands to help uplift them out of the situation. How are we doing that? And so I really am proud of Healing Transitions for what they're doing in that space, but not only how are we doing it with mental health and ensuring that our entire community can be uplifted. So I just wanted to shine a light on that and make sure we keep that into the conversation as we do everything and all of our work. So thank you so much.
Christina, I just wanted to bring up that one of the first things we did with our housing bond was approve a $3 million partnership with Healing Transitions to allow for expansion of their men and women's facilities. So I'll just say, if you can go to Healing Transitions and you don't end up in tears at the end of it, then you're not human. They do the most magnificent job. And one of my favorite moments of Nights of Lights is when all the guys are outside greeting everybody and saying goodbye. And it's a moment. And it really is an incredible organization that's doing great work in our city. Thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Branch.
Not much. Just want to thank Councilman Harris for her list and let her know that between One Wake and the Wake County commissioners, they can definitely take a lot of that load off of Marshall. And as we move forward, because I know there's a lot of work that has been moved, and I think that's something to, from hearing the list, I think it'll be good for our current new council members to get an update on things that are in progress, things that we're working on, and then that way we can help as a group, as a team, move forward as we look at affordable housing, but also bring in partners in the community, because there's a lot of groups that have stepped up to try to help fill some gaps, because the government can go so far. We need community help. We need community support, and we need to do it in partnership. So I definitely look forward to working with you more and a lot closer on that as we tie it all together with transportation as well. So,
And that will be a major topic of discussion at the retreat. We're going to do a deep dive to make sure that everybody does have a full understanding of what we're doing, what we hope to do, and what we have done.
And also, I just want to say Happy New Year to everyone. Welcome back to, I think, the first full work day of 2023 as we move forward. And happy holidays. And please remember those that they may not have been home for Christmas or New Year's. They may have been in a hospital or somewhere, or someone may have lost a loved one. Keep them in mind. As we continue to fight and work and try to uplift, there's some people that they're just fighting just to live. So let's keep that in mind as we move forward. Thank you.
Councilmember Black.
Peace, y'all. I hope everyone had a wonderful ending to their year and got some rest and relaxation as we get ready to get back to work this year. I had two things I wanted to bring up. The first one is that, and I wrote this, so excuse me if this sounds very written, but the Federal Fair Housing Act prohibits discrimination in housing against persons based on the person's membership in one or more groups protected under the Act. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development is the primary federal agency responsible for enforcing the Fair Housing Act. To further fair housing enforcement throughout the county, HUD funds local and state agencies to investigate and enforce fair housing laws at the state and local level. currently, City of Charlotte, Mecklenburg Counties Committee Relations, Durham Human Relations Commissions, Greensboro Human Relations Commission, Orange County Human Relations Commission, and Winston-Salem's Human Relations Commissions are the only 5 local agencies in NC that investigate fair housing complaints in North Carolina. I would really love to have a work session on how the City of Raleigh can qualify for the certification so that we can ensure fair housing and hearing, can investigate, mediate, enforce, and just overlook some of the housing complaints. The next thing I wanted to talk about was, as we know, community engagement was a top concern last year for many residents across the city. Effective engagement of residents in the decision-making process, dynamic outreach, and modernization were all things I heard while on the campaign trail. Specifically for the millennial, zillennial, and Gen Z residents in the city, the website and engagement was a huge barrier. To bridge this gap, I would love a report on how the efficacy of integrating Citizen Lab into the city website could work. Citizen Lab is a platform designed to reach communities where they are and make public decision-making more inclusive, effective, and data-driven. From polling, mobility, and infrastructure to participatory budgeting, it has been used by over 400 plus local governments that trust them with their community engagement projects, including Seattle, Norwich, Connecticut, and Struthers, Ohio. Those are my 2 things. Did you get them? Okay.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Patton.
Yeah, 2 things from me too. They're quick. They're not as eloquent as some of my counterparts today. I wanted to first shout out the Great Raleigh Cleanup, which is a local organization cleaning up our city. They published their end of year report and they cleaned up 82,900 pounds of litter and they diverted almost 11,000 pounds of metal from landfills. So I just wanted to shout out the work that they're doing across our city. And then I also wanted to request a staff report regarding wireless internet in our city facilities, specifically in our fire stations. I'm hearing that our firefighters are chipping in to cover Wi-Fi in their fire stations, and I'd just love to hear any additional information around why, the security implications, the budgetary implications of providing that for them, et cetera.
Councilmember Melton.
I was going to say no report, but you gave me too much time to think, and now I have one. It's actually something I forgot. The Congress passed the spending bill at the end of last year, and I know that there's some money in there for grants for local governments that are working to end exclusionary zoning, parking minimum, stuff like that. And I just wanted to flag that for staff and see if we can get an update on opportunities we may have for some federal funding for some of this affordable housing work we've discussed, because I think we've checked every box they're looking for on zoning reform and other reform. So we should be eligible for, we should be highly competitive for some of this federal money. So I'd love to see what we can do on that.
That was going to be something I brought back from the U.S. Conference of Mayors, because we're going to be talking about that, but that's great. And there is a huge opportunity there. So thank you. Okay, so I have a couple of items as well. First off, Sister Cities and the Appearance Commission. We did not have anybody formally named as liaisons to those 2 groups. Mayor Pro Tem Branch has agreed to serve as the liaison for Sister Cities. I still need somebody willing to serve as liaison to the Appearance Commission. If you have any interest, let me know.
I'll keep it since I have her.
You've got it? Okay, so that would be Councilmember Fort. Thank you. Next, I wanted to mention that Seppi has resigned from the Raleigh-Durham Airport Authority. She submitted a letter of resignation, and she is the president or chair of the North Carolina Chamber this year. She felt that she needed to step back from some of her work. So I am going to nominate Nina Schlossberg Landis as a candidate. They'll come up for a vote at our next meeting. If any of you would like to speak to her, I'm happy to make a connection. And I think Councilmember Harrison, you've already connected with her. She lives in your district. Okay. I'm happy to make that connection. Please let me know. I will, just let me know if that's the case, and I will follow up.
Excuse me, you say you are nominating her, so I should put it on the next agenda for
Yes.
additional nominations or confirmation.
Yep. All right. Now I have one other thing. Can you come up, Gail? Don't look scared. Come here. So we're going to say goodbye to somebody else today, but not for a little while. Gail, you've been a fixture at this table in its many versions for decades.
That makes
Get
me
this.
sound old.
Age is one thing, but honey, you ain't old at heart. I'm going to say that. You are fun. Gail was appointed deputy clerk on, get this, June 7th, 1971, and city clerk and treasurer on January 7th, 1974. Last year, we had a celebration for her right here in this room, recognizing her 50 years of service. Yes, that's wow. Gail has kind of decided that 51 years is enough. So she has asked me to announce that she will be retiring as of March 31st of this year. And I'm also announcing that we are going to have a big, huge party for her. Okay, everybody's into that. That will be scheduled in April. But everybody's already saying, let's mark the calendar. But I just want to say that Gail has done an outstanding job for us over many years. Just the reaction that was just received tells you how beloved she is, how she has really embraced the residents of our city and assisted them. They come to her with lots of questions, and she does her best to find those answers. She has kept us straight, as evidenced by, I know, it's been hard, but just the counsel that she provides to us during our meetings. And Gail, we will miss all of these things about you, but it's not time to say goodbye yet. You still have 3 months for us to continue to work with you and enjoy you and your personality and all that you bring to the table. Now, Gail, I'm going to put you on the spot, kind of like Marshall did, and ask you to say a few words. If you can.
As I told the mayor, it's been a great run. I've enjoyed almost every minute of it. There are those days and those 1:00 a.m. meetings that I thought, what in the world am I doing here? But it has been great. As I said, I have enjoyed most all of it. I'm not like Damien. I don't have a great opportunity to go for. I did tell the mayor, but I don't think I'll be going to Disney World like everybody says when they retire. But it's been great, and I have enjoyed watching the city grow from, I think, around 125,000 to 400 and, depends on what Patrick tells me today, about 70,000 or something.
479.
479. And I think I've talked to every one of them as they came in. One of my things I would like to be remembered as, first of all, is keeping accurate records because we are writing the history of the city. And we got one favorite person in the audience, Octavia, who keeps me straight on that. So it's been great. And the other is customer service. I've insisted that our front office not have a voicemail. The phone has to be answered by one of the employees, and we do our best to help you. I say, please don't transfer somebody unless you know exactly who you're transferring them to. So it's been great. Damien, if there's any other jobs out there, give me a call. I've got a few good years left, maybe. Thank you, and I appreciate the opportunity the city has given me through these years. Thank you all.
If I seemed a little jittery today, you now all understand why. I was hoping to get through that without too many tears. Okay. Now we go on to appointments. Keeping us straight once again.
We will practice. Environmental Advisory Board, you have one regular vacancy. Tessa Mundy received 6 votes. However, you did have a write-in vote by Mayor Baldwin nominated Raleigh King. As in the past, you can, it's up to you, you can appoint the person who received 5 or more votes, or you can hold it over to the next meeting. And both names would be on the agenda, and also you would have an opportunity to also nominate others. So it's your choice as to how you want to proceed.
Mayor,
Yes.
I think in the past when someone has nominated someone the day of the ballot, we've just rolled it forward. There's only one nominee on there before, so I think out of respect for both individuals who have asked, we should vote again. That'd be my preference.
Is everybody okay with that? Okay, thank you.
Okay, so both names will appear on the next ballot and agenda, and you would have an opportunity to vote or nominate an additional person or persons. The next item is the Historic Cemeteries Advisory Board. You have one regular vacancy. Allison Krugel received 8 votes, so would be appointed. So now you have a full board, Historic Cemeteries Advisory Board. The next item is the Historic Resources and Museums Advisory Board. You have 2 regular vacancies. Lucinda McAthane and Sonari Slade received 8 and 6 votes, but you also have a write-in of Paul Rickerman. So here again, you can appoint the 2, or you can carry all 3 names over and have an opportunity to nominate additional ones or vote at the next meeting. So no direction there.
I'm going to suggest that Shanari, who received the 8 votes?
Lucinda received 8 votes. And
Then I would suggest that we move forward with that and approve that nomination, and then hold the other 2.
okay.
Is everybody good with that?
I agree.
Okay.
Okay, so you'll have 1 vacancy and 2 names, and again, the opportunity to vote or to nominate additional people at the next meeting. The next item is Parks, Recreation, and Greenway Advisory Board. You have 1 regular vacancy. Councilmember Jones has nominated Sawinga Liu. I'm getting better. Please, so that will be on the next agenda, and we'll open for additional nominations or vote. The next is the Police Advisory Board. You have one vacancy, and this is the victim advocate position. And Councilmember Jones and Mayor Baldwin have nominated Malloy Rogers. So that would be on the next agenda. The next is Police Advisory Board. You have one alternate vacancy. Patsy Morgan received 5 votes, so would be appointed. Okay, I think that's all of those.
Congratulations, Councilmember Fort. Thank you for being persistent.
Yeah, the next is the nominations. The Board of Adjustment, you have one vacancy. One of the county's appointees was elected to a different office, resigned, and so you have one regular vacancy that's a county appointee. Marvin Butler, who is presently an alternate member appointed by the county, has agreed to step up to the regular member if that's satisfactory with you guys and the county commissioners. And then we would declare a vacancy for alternate member from the county.
Do we need a vote on that?
It would be good, and we could send the information to the county that you recommend that Mr. Butler be moved up and ask for an alternate member.
Move
So,
for approval from
okay.
Mr. Butler.
Do we have a second then?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That was unanimous, clerk.
Okay, and then the next item is the Community Engagement Board. This board, when it was formulated a little bit differently than other boards. Each council person named a person from their district, or the at-large name, and the mayor named a person. In this case, the District C representative, I think it's Mr. Green, has resigned, and so I need direction from the council as to whether you want to continue that. I do believe the Community Engagement Board might be looking at their bylaws to make some changes, but at this point they have not been made. So I need direction. Do you want to continue to allow the replacement of the District C person be made by Mayor Pro Tem Branch, District C, or how do you want to proceed?
Councilmember Melton?
I was just going to say, until the Community Engagement Board has their own bylaws and appointment procedure, I would be in support of Mayor Pro Tem Branch bringing forth a new nominee, especially because his nominee, the first one, hasn't really served that long. And so I think for him to have that opportunity, that would be my preference.
Okay.
I would concur.
Okay. I appreciate it. And I have 2 inquiries out right now, so I should have a name soon, hopefully by the next meeting.
Okay. Well, then we'll just place this on the agenda for the next meeting, and at that time or beforehand, if you so desire, get me the name and we'll put it on, and then the council can consider confirmation. Okay, we do have a vacancy for the Historic Cemeteries Advisory Board. Hold on. Because you had received, had received a letter of resignation from Kimberly Marturian. Therefore, there is one vacancy for consideration, which would be on the agenda for the next meeting. And that's all I have at this point.
Okay, thank you. All right, next we have report and recommendation of the city clerk.
Okay, you did receive a couple of sets of minutes, council meeting and work session for consideration of approval.
Do we have a motion?
Move for approval of minutes.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, that was unanimous, clerk.
And then the last item is surplus property. during the December 6th meeting, you declared several properties, 508, 510, and 514 Southeast Street, surplus and authorized sale through the upset bid process. You received information in your agenda packet that we had gone through the legal advertising and no upset bids were received. Therefore, it is recommended that, well, actually, each one of them to be sold to Hoss Holdings LLC in the amount of $175,000 plus advertising costs for each one. So it would be appropriate to adopt resolutions authorizing the sale of the properties as advertised.
Mayor Pro Tem Branch.
I move, excuse me, I move to adopt a resolution authorizing the sale of properties as outlined and authorize appropriate city officials to sign necessary instruments of conveyance subject to review and approval of the city attorney's office and city manager. So
Second.
move.
All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Councilmember Black is opposed.
I'm sorry.
Councilmember Black
Okay.
opposed. Okay,
And that's all I have.
thank you. Next, we have the report and recommendation of the city attorney,
No report today, Mayor.
and there is no closed session either. Boy, you're giving us a break. All right. We are going to recess the meeting then. We will start back here at 7. As a reminder, we only have 2 public hearings tonight, but we have a number of speakers who have signed up for public comment. So we will see you at 7. Thank you.